Good morning, my fellow Canadians. Probably for the first time in my life, or one of the first times in my life, that I can honestly think of where I am ashamed and embarrassed to be a Canadian. I watched a news report from CBN from the States about Canada. Very accurate, very true, and very distressing to see how we are perceived by our southern neighbors, our major trading partner, the longest shared undefended border in the world. What was interesting to me is to see a news report from a responsible and good journalist who is not a paid whore for the Liberal government. That $600 million bribe that Trudeau put out to the mainstream media. I am heartsick. I really am. I am ashamed of my country. Well, to be more accurate perhaps, of the Liberal government and what it is doing to my country. Gravitas. If you don't know the word, look it up. Gravitas. Our old politicians, the politicians of my youth, they had that. Even Pierre Elliott Trudeau, Trudeau Sr., for all the damage he did, he had that quality. Mulroney had it. Harper had it. As much as I have no use for Brian Mulroney. Instead, we have this dancing, prancing clown destroying my country. The Liberal Party destroying my country for an experiment. If you haven't seen, look it up. CBN News. I posted it to my page on Facebook. If you haven't seen it, I cannot urge you too strongly. Watch this. Watch what the Liberals have turned us into, how we are perceived by our southern neighbors. And like I said, accurate, very well presented, very well done. Oh my God, my God, my God, my country, my poor, poor country. Myself, older people like me, there are a lot, in spite of the Liberals' best efforts, there are a lot of true Canadians, true Canadian patriots who really love this country, who wish to see it succeed. There are still a lot of us out there. Trudeau, unfortunately, has, well, again, not Trudeau, the Liberal Party. Like I said, that clown we have for a PM has belittled and demeaned the office, has turned the office of Prime Minister into a joke, and has turned us in the US into an object of derision. This beautiful, wonderful, proud country with such a rich history, an object of derision. It would be different if it was sarcastic or a sniggering little, look at those guys. Okay, that would be different. You can kind of dismiss that. But this was a sober, well presented analysis of Canada today and the danger we pose, to the United States. That is not an exaggeration. So, I'm my head is just reeling from this. I can only hope that in the next election, Canadians pull their head out of their ass and really, really look, stop and look. Now they won't. We know that there are people who will vote liberal no matter what. To those of you, I say, who have had a history, family history, you've always voted liberal, bear something in mind. I voted liberal when I was younger. Back to Churchill's saying about, if you're not a liberal at 20, you have no heart. And if you're not a conservative at 40, you have no brain. Bearing those words in mind, the Liberal Party of my youth is not the Liberal Party of today. The politicians of my youth are not the politicians of today. That gravitas is gone. And nothing typifies that more than, like I said, that joke sock boy that we have, who has turned the office of Prime Minister into a joke. It was a chilling thing to watch. It really was, and distressing for me, and I think for any true Canadian. But I look at the Liberal Party, and this journalist called us what we are now is a social experiment, this idea of a post-nationalist state. And the insidious way that they have brainwashed our youth, the academics are totally complicit in this, as is the media, mainstream media, totally complicit in brainwashing the youth, feeding them pablum when they should have been feeding them solid dinners, feeding them garbage and having them regurgitate it, brainwashing and indoctrinating a whole generation into these moronic slogans. All noise and no substance. What is it they say? All sizzle and no steak. Oh my God. I watched it, and I actually had a hollow feeling in the pit of my stomach. And I'm thinking, my God, this is what they have done to my Canada. I've studied Canadian history, like international history, yes, certainly, but Canadian history. The pride I feel in Canada, the quiet pride I feel in my country is almost destroyed. But what gives me heart is that I was talking once to a new Canadian. I said, you must bear in mind, Toronto is not Ontario, and Ontario is not Canada. I know that there are millions, literally millions, of proud, quietly proud Canadians out there. To those of you, I ask you, I beg you, there is an election coming up. Stand together. Get active. Make your voices heard. Stop this downhill slide. Stop us from sinking into this morass of theoretical socialism, soft Marxism, creeping Islamophobia. Oh my God! To be condemned, to be made to be ashamed of the fact that you're Caucasian, isn't that racism? I did a post once on racism. Watch it. Because racism is nothing to do with color. It has to do solely with attitude. And now I am becoming a beleaguered, visible minority almost in my own city. I feel like it sometimes. We are a great nation, not in terms of international noise, not in terms of big strides internationally, but if you look at Canadian history and what Canada has accomplished for what is essentially a small population nation for such a large country, you see what we have done and contributed to the world, you would be as proud of this country as I am. How can you expect this to be fostered in an educational system and in an atmosphere where the government, the Canadian government, says we do not have a culture? They have demeaned Canadian and Canada and Canadianism to turn it into a joke. Oh, oh, how quaint, you're a patriot. Oh, how quaint. What they've done to my country. please, please, for God's sake, for the sake of the future of this country, stop this. Stop them cold in their tracks. It's only been 4 years. It was started by Trudeau Sr. It's been perpetuated by the current Liberal Party. Stop this. Come back to what we are supposed to be and some of what we were. I was hunting once years ago, a buddy of mine. Heavy snowfall started to come down, quite heavily. We said, okay, pack it in. There's no sense getting wet, getting our rifles and our gear wet. We started heading back to the house. We got turned around. The snow had blanketed everything, changed everything, plus it was coming down. We walked, and I stopped, and I said, I think I know where we are. I says, but we're off course. So what we do, stop, retrace our steps, go back to a known point, cast around, figure out where you went wrong, and then get on the right path. I could respect a government that did that and said, look, we tried something. We thought it would work. It's been a failure. We're going to stop and we're going to go back to a known point. We're going to go back when things did work and we'll rebuild from that point. Any mature, intelligent, responsible person realizes that if you are out of position, if you are lost, the only way to get yourself out of that predicament is to go back to a known point, go back where things worked, where things made sense, and then analyze where you went wrong and move on from there. There's nothing wrong with saying, I was wrong, I'm sorry. That's maturity. There's nothing wrong with taking blame where it is deserved and standing up and saying, look, I apologize. I made a mistake. That's maturity. In the Canadian government, have we got that? Nope. They will blow smoke up the ass of Canadians and trying to justify the unjustifiable. This is what we have turned into. Watch that segment. CBN. You can probably look it up online, or like I said, go to my page because I shared it on my page. Look at it and see what we have become under the Liberals. An experiment, a sociological experiment. Experiments are fine. Experiments teach you what works, what doesn't work. This is a failed experiment. It doesn't work. It is destroying Canada. And that is not an exaggeration. They are destroying my country. They have kicked Canadian heritage, Canadian culture, Canadian ethos, Canadian values, Canadian mores have all been kicked to the curbside in pursuit of an experiment. I know people will vote for them. I know cognitive dissonance has become almost the norm from what I'm seeing. I'm watching educated morons playing stupid games with the lives of the Canadian people. We are not real to the Liberal government. You must understand we are not real to the Liberal government. The normal Canadian is not a real person. It's not a person. You are a theoretical construct. It's like a chess piece on a board. Ooh, let's move it here and see what happens. There is no real world understanding, and more specifically, there have been no real world consequences for their stupidity. And we are complicit in voting them in and in allowing them to destroy Canada. There is a pushback. It heartens me to see the pushback. Grassroots pushback at the Liberal agenda and the stupidity, the moronic, the reshaping of the Canadian landscape. That is where I take heart, and hopefully the next generation. This generation is lost. I've seen them, like I said, at the Pegida rallies, the protesters spewing out garbage, but you get them one-on-one and question them about their beliefs. They're hollow drums. You beat them, they make a lot of noise, but you open them and there's nothing in there. And that is thanks to the teachers and the educational system that cranked out those teachers who have all jumped on board with this moronic initiative for the destruction of Canada and blind to the fact that they are destroying this country. People, any proud Canadian, any true Canadian, I cannot urge you too strongly. Speak up. Contact your MP, your MPP. Push back at teachers. Just if your kid comes home from school spewing garbage, you go in there. I'll give you a wonderful example of this. There was a gentleman whose daughter, they had school meatless Thursday or something. It was some meatless day to show solidarity with the animals. Ooh, what has that got to do with education? I have no idea, but this was the thing. So the guy asked his daughter, what do you want? Well, she wanted, I think, a ham sandwich or something. He made her ham sandwich. They shamed her because she brought meat and didn't go along with the program. If I'd have been that father, I'd have been in that freaking door. I'd have had that teacher by the throat against the wall and asked him flat out, what has this got to do with education? Reading, writing, English comprehension, mathematics, science, physics, geography, history. This is what I want you to teach my kid. This is what I was taught. Civics. Anybody remember civics? Where they used to teach you about your country, how to be proud of your country, not to litter, how to common courtesy, civics. Elderly person or a pregnant lady gets on the bus, give them your seat. Watch the deterioration. If you travel the public transit system in Toronto and watch, just watch, assholes with their bag on the seat beside them when you got people standing looking for a place to sit. Watch. Once in a while I see snippets of the old Canadian values, the old courtesies, once in a while. But for the most part, ignorance. Self-absorbed ignorance. And there you have almost a typical description of the classic liberal. Or of today's liberal, perhaps more accurately. People, Canadians everywhere, please stand up. If you like this, pass it around, disseminate it, but watch that CBN news segment about our country and see from someone else how we are perceived. Not by the media whores here, bought and paid for by the Liberal government. See how we are perceived by somebody who is not beholding to the Liberal government. What he said was not wrong, and that is probably one of the most distressing things for me, that he was bang on accurate. My fellow Canadians, please, if you love this country, if you truly love this country and want to see a better future for your children and want to see us back on track to where we should be, please speak up. Please, for the love of God. It is not too late. Please, I beg you. Thank you.